Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of our IELTS Listening podcast. I'm Sophia, and I'm so excited to start this journey with you. In this series, we're going to explore the IELTS listening test in full detail. You'll learn the structure, types of questions, common challenges, and most importantly, how to train your ear and improve your listening skills step by step. Before we jump into anything, I want you to know something. This podcast is designed for people who want real practice, just like in the exam. So we won't be providing written subtitles for these episodes. Many of you prefer to just listen and focus on understanding English naturally, and that's exactly what this series is about. But if you feel you need subtitles, you can always turn on YouTube's auto-generated captions. Let's start with the overall structure. The IELTS listening test is 30 minutes long with an additional 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. There are 40 questions in total, divided into 4 sections, each with increasing difficulty. Let's break down the IELTS listening test, section by section, in a way that actually feels real. Section 1 is where everything starts, and honestly, it's usually the easiest part of the exam. You'll hear a conversation between two people, and it's always about an everyday situation, something very normal, like booking a hotel room, registering for a course, or asking for directions. What makes this section manageable is the kind of information you're listening for. It's very practical. Names, phone numbers, dates, times, addresses, prices, things like that. For example, you might hear someone say, "I'd like to reserve a double room for next Friday." And just like that, your answer could be the date, the type of room, or the number of guests. The key here is attention to detail. IELTS loves hiding the answer in just one short sentence. Miss that line and you miss the point, even if the rest was easy. Section 2 feels similar, but there's one important difference. Only one person is speaking. This is usually a monologue, maybe someone explaining a service, introducing a place, or giving instructions about an event. You could be listening to a tour guide talking about a museum, a staff member explaining how a system works, or someone giving instructions. The focus shifts slightly here. You're not just catching numbers anymore. You're listening for key points, locations, and steps in a process. Everything is said clearly, but not slowly. That's why concentration really matters. If you lose focus for a few seconds, you might miss something important, like opening hours, ticket prices, or where something is located. Section 3 is where the exam starts to feel more academic. You'll hear 2 or sometimes 3 people having a discussion, usually students talking about an assignment or a tutor explaining what's expected in a project. This section is trickier because it's not just about facts. You're listening for opinions, suggestions, and how people agree or disagree with each other. And here's the real challenge. Speakers often change their minds. Someone might say, "I think this approach works best," and then a moment later add, "Actually, maybe that's not the best idea after all." If you're not fully engaged, it's easy to write down the wrong answer. Active listening is essential here. Section 4 is the most demanding part of the listening test. This is a full academic monologue, usually a lecture on a topic like science, history, the environment, or technology. There's no conversation this time and no repetition to save you. The speaker moves fast, uses more advanced vocabulary, and expects you to follow the structure of the talk. You're listening for main ideas, supporting examples, and key facts. So when a lecturer says something like, "The main factor contributing to climate change is," your brain needs to be ready because the important information is coming right now and it won't be repeated. Now, let's talk about the different kinds of questions you'll come across in the IELTS listening test. This part is really important because if you know what type of question you're facing, your brain already knows how to listen. First, you'll often see multiple choice questions. Here, your job is simple in theory. You listen carefully and choose the correct option. But in practice, it can be tricky because the speakers usually mention all the options and only one of them is actually correct. So don't jump to conclusions too early. Listen to the whole idea before you decide. Another very common type is matching. You might need to connect people with places, opinions with speakers, or ideas with different options. This tests your ability to follow who says what, especially when several people are talking. Then there's plan, map, or diagram labeling. In these questions, you're not just listening, you're visualizing. You'll hear directions or descriptions, and you have to label the correct places on a map or diagram. Words like next to, opposite, on the left, or at the far end suddenly become very important. You'll also see form, note, or table completion questions. These are all about details. Something is missing, and your task is to catch the exact information from the audio, maybe a name, a time, a price, or a location. Spelling and accuracy really matter here. Another type is sentence completion. You're given part of a sentence and you have to finish it using words you hear in the recording. This means you can't change the wording. You must listen carefully and write exactly what is said. Finally, there are short answer questions. These look easy, but they're dangerous. You usually have to answer using just one or two words, or sometimes a number. No extra explanations, just the answer. And this is where I want you to be extra careful. Always check the instructions. If it says no more than two words and or a number, and you write even one word too many, the answer is wrong, even if the idea is correct. This is one of the most common mistakes in the listening test, and it's completely avoidable if you pay attention. Let me share a few tips to help you get the most out of this podcast. First of all, try to listen before you read. Don't rely on subtitles right away. Let your brain focus on understanding the sound, the rhythm, and the meaning naturally, just like in the real exam. While you're listening, take notes. Pay special attention to things like dates, numbers, names, and key details. These are exactly the kinds of answers IELTS is looking for. If something feels difficult, that's completely normal. Repeat the episode if you need to. Listening is a skill, and the more you practice, the better you get. Use this podcast actively, not passively. Pause the audio, think about the question, and only then write your answer. This habit makes a huge difference on test day. And finally, test yourself. After you finish listening, take a moment and try to recall what you heard, the main ideas, the details, even the structure of the conversation. That's how real progress happens. As I mentioned earlier, we won't be providing English subtitles for these episodes. Many learners actually benefit more from listening only because it trains the brain to understand spoken English in real time, exactly what IELTS requires. That said, if you really need them, YouTube's auto-generated subtitles are always there as an option. And one more important thing. If you feel that this level is still a bit too challenging or you're not quite ready for a full IELTS listening test yet, that's absolutely okay. You can start with our Listen and Answer playlist instead. It's a simplified version of the same IELTS listening format, designed to help you build confidence step by step, train your ear, and get used to the question styles without pressure. Once you feel more comfortable, you can come back here and take on the full test with confidence. There's no rush. What matters is starting at the right level and moving forward the smart way. By the time you finish this series, you'll be fully prepared for the real IELTS listening test. You'll know exactly what to expect in every section, how to handle each type of question, and how to avoid the most common mistakes that cost candidates easy points. More importantly, you'll know how to stay focused during the test and manage your time with confidence. And here's what really matters. The more you practice with this podcast, the more comfortable you'll feel when you walk into the exam room. Listening won't feel stressful anymore. It will feel natural. And even the tricky questions won't intimidate you because you've already trained for them. That's it for our very first episode. I really hope this introduction gave you a clear picture of what to expect and how to use the series effectively. Remember, when it comes to IELTS listening, practice and focus are your best friends. In the next episode, we'll do our first full, realistic IELTS listening simulation together. So get your pen and paper ready and prepare to listen exactly the way you would in the real exam. Before you go, if you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends, especially anyone who's preparing for IELTS. It really helps the channel grow and reach more learners. And one more thing, sorry if this episode was a bit long. I just wanted to take the time to explain everything properly and share all the important details so you feel fully prepared moving forward. Thanks so much for listening today. I'm Sophia, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you. Keep listening, stay focused, and I'll see you in the next episode.